Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm Mayor Cal Sheehy, joined by City Manager Jess Knudsen.
Good morning. Good to see everybody.
Today is Friday, February 2nd, and we are at the City Council chambers for Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. Like usual, we'll go over some of the hot topics that are going on in Lake Havasu City, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have on anything that we covered or anything that might be on your mind that we didn't cover. So we'll get right into it. We'll first talk about Highway 95. We've been talking about it for a really long time. So we have renovation crews that are going through and redoing the highway, which is fantastic. All of this is made possible because of Representative Biasucci leading the way down to the state legislature with the help of Senator Borelli and Representative Gillette. They were able to get us direct appropriations to be able to do Highway 95 all the way from Sarah Park to the I-40 bridge, which is fantastic. Not only did they do that for us, but they also did it for our friends up in Mojave Valley and in Bullhead City. So there's also work going on up there with that same bill that they ran. We would talk about it in preparation to let citizens know that this was going to occur. And obviously we all use Highway 95 on a very regular basis to get around our community, as it's the only entrance in and out of our community. And, everyone would get all excited when we talk about it, and then I'd say, okay, harness that excitement because it's going to be a miserable experience when it's happening. But it hasn't even been. It's been so amazing. They're doing such a good job doing nighttime work, always keeping a lane of traffic open. Certainly there are some inconveniences, but overall it's been a really, really fantastic project. So they are working readily throughout our community to get that project done. There is also going to be some work on the Falls Springs Bridge, which Jess affectionately calls the Bumpy Bridge.
Or Bouncy Bridge.
Oh, Bouncy Bridge?
Yeah.
That's the bridge over on the north end of our community. As you're heading past North Palo Verde towards Lake, you get on that bridge and you just kind of bounce. And it also has a lot of trash that's accumulated because people aren't expecting to be so bouncy. But we're having some work there to be able to level that out as well. So that will hopefully be part of that project. And then just yesterday, you had some good news about some pavement preservation that will happen on the highway as well.
Yeah, two things. To add to the Bouncy Bridge, Falls Springs Bridge, there's another less bouncy bridge, if you will, that's just north of there. I think it's, I'm forgetting the name of it, I think it's Monarch Wash Bridge, but there's going to be resurface that'll take place on that one as well, too. And then, yes, as you indicated, Mayor, the conversations now is, should they immediately put a fog seal treatment on the fresh asphalt? And we're saying, yes, do it now because there is no phase two. That's a very good deal. So, basically when you put the asphalt down, you want to put some type of treatment down there to protect it, to extend the life. And we want to enjoy this roadway for many, many years to come. So that's important. One of the negatives associated with that, and so we're going to have to bear with this for about 30 days. After the fog seal goes down, they can't put the stripes back down for 30 days. So there'll be no striping, no markings on 95 for 30 days. There'll be the safety tabs that will be out there, but just be aware that for 30 days, you'll see why aren't they putting stripes down. It's because they want to let that treat in a proper manner that's going to absorb the paint in a much better fashion. The paint will then hold up long term, much, much longer. So. But good news, lots of good things happening on Highway 95, from the obvious asphalt to the long-term preservation to the resurfacing of both of those decks along 95 as well too.
Yeah, so we're really excited about it. A lot of our citizens that travel north and head up to the I-40 area keep asking, when are they going to do that area? Because it looks like they stopped at the cattle guard, which they did. But as you can imagine, there's so much traffic that happens at that interchange. And so they will be doing that work, but once they finish the work in our community. So really excited about that project. And again, a big thank you to Representative Biasucci, Senator Sonny Borelli, and Representative Gillette for really going to bat with that. If you talk to Representative Biasucci, he actually will tell you, we've been working on this for 4 years now.
5, probably.
Yeah. So it's been a really long time. So I've testified in committee. Obviously, Representative Biasucci's testified in committee. And the first time we went through the process, it was denied at the committee level. And so Representative Biasucci came back, and he'll tell the story that he's in his suit, and he has this phone camera out, and he's literally on his hands and knees on Highway 95 taking pictures of how big the cracks are. Goes back to committee, and we're successful. So really good news there. So it was a lot of hard work to get there. And again, it would not have happened without our local delegation down at the state legislature.
Mayor, if I can, off schedule a little bit too, but related to Highway 95, I'd like to give a special thanks out to Republic Services for all the work they've been doing the last 2 weeks, especially with some of the trash cleanup. So they're out there. You can see the bags that are being filled and some of the trash that's being removed. It's for our visitors, it's the first and sometimes last impression of Lake Havasu City, and it's so important for us to clear the trash off that area. Anthony Kozlowski and my office have been working with Public Services on trying to get that area cleaned up the best that we can, and looking for more of a long-term approach. We need to do this on a regular, weekly, monthly basis throughout. So trying to make a dent and doing the best we can. But thank you to Mr. Masterson, especially at Republic Services, for all his efforts.
Yeah, excellent. And as just mentioned, it is a priority of ours to try and figure out how to get the highway cleaned up. And so when we talk about this, it's like, well, why haven't you done it already? The challenge with it is it's a state highway 95. And so the right of way belongs to the state highway system. We're obviously the city, we're the municipality. So there's boundaries that we have to respect. And so you have to work through processes to get that. So certainly everyone knows the problems there. That's good news that we're all at least talking from the same sheet of paper, that we all know there's a challenge. And now we are finding solutions to do that. So as just mentioned, we'll hopefully have a solution pretty readily this year to be able to correct that and have an ongoing solution to keep the highway area and right-of-ways cleaned up. Also, when we're talking about roads, we have a lot of local roadway projects that we're doing as well. So Highway 95, that's through state funding, and then coming into the interior of our community, that all happens through our local dollars, or also HERF dollars you might hear us talk about, which is Highway User Revenue Fund. That's the portion of the gas tax that you pay when you fill up your vehicle with gasoline is returned back to communities to go for road projects. This year in our budget, we augmented our HERF dollars, so the sales tax component, with an additional $10 million in monies to be able to do some roadway projects. Some of that work you've already been able to experience and see, such as the area on Acoma to Kiowa on Lake Havasu Avenue, down at South Palo Verde and London Bridge Road. That area has been redone, and we have some additional projects that are in either the development stage, the planning stage, or on their way to City Council. But it'll be the major roads: Riviera, Lower McCulloch, a couple of other areas on Lake Havasu Avenue. I think industrial might be on there.
Industrial's on that list. So yeah, we do an assessment and look at the worst of our roads, and then we work down that list. So it's a little bit of a here and there, but some stretches of roads and Havasu that need our attention.
Yeah. And we really are focusing on areas that get the most traffic counts. So the worst condition and the largest traffic counts in that area.
Point.
So really excited to be able to have those additional roadway projects as well. Obviously, everybody wants to have a smooth travel as they move about our community, and that is what our plan is, to help do that. We'll do some additional investments in future years that we can have some sort of certainty of a plan to ensure that our roadways are maintained and taken care of. Outside of that, so just kind of very generally how we take care of our roads is we try to hit each road every 10 years with something. So if that's either completely redoing the roadway like we did on McCulloch between Acoma and Smoke Tree, that could be a fog seal, as Justin mentioned, that they'll be doing on Highway 95, could be a chip seal, it could be a variety of different treatments we try to do every 10 years. We were about that, but over the last couple of years, we've actually been able to do a little bit more roadways. So we've been able to do more lane miles, so we're actually over that goal, but that's just kind of a general rule. And then as I had mentioned, Jess and his team are working on more of a master plan to maintain the roadways going forward. We're coming to a position now where all of the roads that were redone during the sewer infrastructure that was put in between 2002 and 2011 are aging. So that we had all of the roadways going at once, and they were all beautiful, but now it's 10, 20 years later, and now we have to maintain those roadways. So it's kind of the challenge that we're looking at. But that's what we have going on roads. Do you have any other things on roads?
Just to reiterate that we talk about like HERF fund, and we mentioned funds. The city has over 25 different funds, right? And they should be used money in, money out, and that's used for that purpose. One of those funds, as you indicated, Mayor, is the Highway User Revenue Fund, or the HERF fund. So normally we get the dollars in there. It's a little over about, call it $5 million per year that the city gets in HERF funds to take care of our local streets. But that's for the pavement preservation, for the asphalt, for any fog seal we're doing. But that also includes any of our personnel, our vehicles, equipment, all the things that are associated with that. So I just want to reiterate that the council made a commitment to take $10 million in our general fund and move that into our HER fund to put more dollars into the road and infrastructure within the community. So that we talk about it a lot, but that's why the council, the city made a commitment to invest more into our roads than the dollars we would normally have for roads.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll be driving a little bit smoother real soon. So we're already doing it on Highway 95 in some of those road areas, and then we'll have some additional roadways that will come forth very soon. Recently, we had a Water Smart group team meeting, which was an opportunity that was found by our Water Sustainability Program Manager, Tim Collette. And basically, Tim's role is really everything water for Lake Havasu City when it comes to ensuring we have water, how do we conserve water, how do we do water policy, how then do the systems work. He interfaces, obviously, with the superintendents and how all those pieces come together. And so he found this grant opportunity and put together a team. The team had some very specific requirements of who had to be on the team. It had to be a diverse team, so it couldn't be just all water people. It couldn't be just all utility people. It couldn't be just all elected people, but it had to kind of be one or two of those people from all of those different areas. So we were down in Phoenix last week, I believe, and we spent 2.5 days really just looking over water and water sustainability and best practices. Really exciting things came out of that initial meeting. Probably what I saw the most is just the collaboration of the team members. So Lake Havasu City has a dynamic team of folks that work every day in service of our citizens, and they're subject matter experts in their field. So whatever it is that they're doing, but there's not always a lot of opportunity to cross over and talk about what they're an expert at with other experts that are doing it in another area. But this opportunity, we had 2.5 days to do that. And as I'm watching this all occur with the team, you can just see like these light bulbs going off in their minds about how they can help each other and how that eventually will help all of us as a community grow stronger. So really exciting things are coming out of that. We actually set up, while we were there, we expanded the team. So the team is going to be here. Unfortunately, Jess couldn't make it to the conference. He had a different place to be last week. And so, but he makes decisions. So we need him on the team. So Jess is going to be on the team, and City Attorney Kelly Gary will join the team. And we'll be able to continue to have these conversations on how these all integrate, obviously with the goal of being smarter water users, which residents and ratepayers in Lake Havasu have a really long history of doing that. We use less water today than we did in the 90s with the population increase that we've experienced. So we're very good at those types of things, but how do we solidify it, and how do we create even more efficiencies? So, as the drought continues on the Colorado River system, we're going to have to do things that are going to be really important to ensure water futures for the entire basin. And so by having these types of innovative discussions, we're able to make sure that we're on the leading edge of those types of things. So we're really excited on what this will be and what it will come out to join us. I mean, that's my perspective as an elected official. So Jess, I know it was all your team members that joined me, or I think I might have joined them. And so I don't know your perspective on where we'll go from here.
Well, no, it just you talk about subject matter experts within the respective fields. So I think we had our water division superintendent, wastewater division superintendent there. We had Chris in our senior planning and zoning administrator was part of that group. Tim, who is our expert in all things water with Lake Havasu City, and those are. It's different departments are coming together to have conversations about how we can help each other. I talk a lot more internally within the organization about how important it is to develop a kind of a one-team approach, and how do you break down? How do you have conversations with the police department? Has conversations with public works and parks and throughout the organization, all for the betterment of the community and our ability to provide more streamlined, effective services to all. So it's just another great example of when we bring our experts together to have conversations, good things happen.
Yes. Yeah, and it was very powerful. I was excited to be part of it. I actually was better than I thought it was going to be. You get to conferences and you're like, hey, how do you take a day out of your schedule, or now 2.5 days out of a schedule? You can get anxious by that. And really, I got down there and it was time well spent, and it was a good investment. So you don't always think that when you leave from a conference, but I thought that from this one. So it was good.
He wasn't very optimistic going, but he came back with lots of great news.
Yes.
Yeah.
2.5 days is a lot of days.
Yeah,
That's a lot
and that's why,
to try to manage a schedule on. But
yeah.
on infrastructure, we have opened the courthouse since last time we met. We were dark in January for the new year. So last time we met was early December. And just the week after we met, they moved over to our new courthouse. So just as a little bit of background, we have had a consolidated court system in our area for many, many years. In 2019, we deconsolidated, which basically meant that the municipal court, which is what we operate as the city, was housed with the justice court, which is the elected justice of the peace that's elected by the citizens, and also is housed with the superior court, which is ran by the county. And so we were all in the same space, but we were all running out of space. We didn't have enough access to courtrooms or office space or even areas for the public to be able to communicate with each other. And so we were looking for a variety of different things. And again, take yourselves back to 2019. Lake Havasu was just a little bit of a different place. We looked at renting an empty storefront at that time. We don't have any of those anymore, but at the time we did. We looked at building from the ground up here on the City Hall complex, building a new building. And then we started looking at purchasing some buildings. And finally, when Jack and Dale Bailey decided to retire, they owned Havasu Fitness. We were able to purchase that building. And so it's just adjacent to the City Hall complex. Interestingly enough, they had a sidewalk already go between the two areas. So we're able to get over there actually pretty easily. So the courthouse as it is now, we moved over in one weekend. And we're open for business. A lot of times people think of a court as a professional service, which it is, but it is open 24 hours. It is open and available for 24 hours a day for orders of protection and those types of things. And it's open 7 days a week. So you have to be arraigned within 24 hours in the state of Arizona. So it's always operating. And now we have access to 2 full-time courtrooms, a virtual courtroom. There's also a law library for our citizens. There's meeting rooms for clients to meet with, or attorneys to meet with their clients. If you ever remember going into the College Drive courthouse, there's like a hallway in front of all of the courtrooms, and you generally see the attorneys conferring with their client literally right there in that hallway. I mean, this is a small hallway, so not a whole lot of privacy. There is now privacy available. And then we also had the second level. There's a third community room, which could be used as a future courtroom as the community grows, but also will be another public community rooms or community space. That'll be a space that we can just flip the switch and turn on Channel 4. So live meetings like we're having this morning can happen and occur in that meeting space as well. Oftentimes, this is the only room that we're in today here at the current City Council chambers that has access to go on to Channel 4 readily. So we try to be in this room because it has the cameras, it has the sound equipment, it has all of those things. But sometimes this room's booked because although we like to call it the City Council chambers, it really is the police training center. And it's been that way on loan to us for 25 years. So the police department does need to use their training room every once in a while, or other departments or other community gatherings have to occur using that same technology. So this is a really busy space. So we'll now have that second space over there at the courthouse as well. The courthouse is a really exciting project. We're really glad to have it done. And I probably should have led with this, but the great thing about the courthouse is it's paid for. We were able to carefully plan over a series of 4 or 5 years, save up money, and we were able to pay for the building, and we were also able to pay for all of the renovations. So we owed no money on it. We had no debt issuance to do that project. And when you get an opportunity to go over there, you'll be very, very proud of that. And Jess, you and your team worked really hard on making sure it happened on time, on budget. And did a great job with it. I don't know if you have anything to add to that project.
No, it's a wonderful facility. If you haven't had an opportunity, you can walk in there and just kind of get a feel for it. There's obviously some spaces that are private, or if there is proceedings that are occurring, One thing I took away earlier this week when I was talking to Judge Kalali is they had a court proceeding last week that took several days, but they were able to do it all day and then the next day and the next day, and everyone's like, oh, of course, why wouldn't you do that? He made the comment that if they were in the old building, they would have taken several weeks, if not several months, to finish that proceeding because of how rooms are scheduled. So Judge Kalali and the courts team would get one courtroom part of the time. And so they had to kind of schedule that. Now there's 2 courtrooms with a virtual courtroom they can utilize as well too. So then when things come up and things need to be completed through like a court proceeding, we have the space to take care of it without worrying about reserving time and space and all the rest too. So already we're seeing the positive impacts associated with the space that the courts does now have. Mm-hmm. Not to mention what's the conversations that have already taken place with counsel and with the judge and his team about the future of the courthouse when it comes to additional specialty courts and programs maybe to better address juvenile crime or crimes associated with drugs and mental illness, those types of things too, right? So a much more of a comprehensive approach, and some of those things are being discussed right now, which is we could not do that in the previous facility.
Yeah, so that would be replicating our award-winning Veterans Treatment Court and our Youth Court. It would replicate that to kind of a general population cohort court, so we can deal with substance abuse issues and behavioral health issues in a similar situation. The recidivism rate on a general court user, I guess you could call that, is about 85% or so. So
that means they're going to come back into the court over and over and over again, 85% of the time.
Yeah, 85% of those folks that have one experience are going to just keep rolling.
They'll be arrested, they go to court, whatever happens there takes place, and then they're back on the streets, they get arrested, and it's a lifetime pattern, right?
Yes. So yeah, it's shocking. I mean, that number is 85%. It's a huge, huge number. In our treatment courts, it's less than 10%. So it's and it matters to all of us because we pay the bills. And so, as taxpayers, when somebody gets arrested, they're arrested by a police officer that we're paying for. They might need a public defender that we're paying for. They have a prosecutor that works for our city attorney's office that we're paying for. They might have to have jail time, which we're paying for. And certainly there are fines and fees of the people that find themselves in these situations, but those fines and fees don't cover all of the expenses. And truthfully, most of the fines and fees go to the state and don't come back.
Nowhere near covers the expense of all that you described. Yes. A very, very small percentage.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to be able to expand those courts, and it's just the right thing to do. And so, people find themselves sometimes in a hard situation. They make a poor choice, and they just need some help to be put on a pathway to get them back into society, which is fantastic. And if we can help facilitate that, all the better. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we talk about the criminal side of the courts. The courts are also some happy places. People get married at courts. People file filings at the courts too. So the court is used by a variety of citizens that will use that. A quick story I like to share on the courthouse is when the temporary sign first got put up on the courthouse, I started getting these phone calls like, what is this? The sign is the most ugly sign I've seen. Why would you invest all this money and put this sign on there? And I don't leave City Hall through Acoma. I leave through McCulloch, so I don't generally drive by that area. So I'm like, I have to go check this out. And it was a sign affixed to the building. It looked temporary, but I'm not 100% sure if it was or not.
Banner style that was stuck to the...
Yeah, it was stuck to the building. And so I was like, all right, whatever. So I mentioned to Jesse. He's like, oh yeah, no, that's not what it is. It's just temporary. And then I talked to the judge, Judge Kalali, and lots of things interact and intertwine in government. And so the administration of courts has rules. And one of the rules is in order for the courts to operate, you have to have a permanently affixed sign. And so you can't put a temporary banner, so we actually put a sticker on the building because now it's permanently affixed. Mm-hmm. Well, the sign came in, and now, of course, if you drive by now, you'll see the beautiful sign that's there. But it's just funny sometimes how unintended consequences happen when regulations or laws are drafted, that we literally put a sticker on the building so we can open that Monday morning and see people at the courthouse. But that's why it wasn't just a traditional banner like most people would put in their temporary signage until the new sign or the official sign comes in, but it's a funny story of kind of how that all intersects, and we have to really do careful attention to the words on a piece of paper and what they're going to mean in the future to other people. So. Also on infrastructure, we had a meeting on Monday for the second bridge, really exciting infrastructure project. We had over 100 people.
108 people signed up on the sheet as they entered the meeting.
It was
That's a lot
at the
of
community
people.
center down at the aquatic center. It was a kickoff meeting, so I think some people came and wanted to see pictures of bridges and those types of things, but that's not what that was about. It was really to talk about the timeline, talk about the planning, talk about the why, all of those components. So I'll give you a brief overview, and then Jess can talk about the details of what all it means. But there's actually two pathways we're working on right now. So all of this second bridge discussion has been going on in Havasu City since the 1970s. So Mr. McCulloch and his teams have been talking about it. Previous city councils have been talking about it. And then Representative Biasucci really wanted to move forward with a second bridge and a piece of infrastructure. So he started talking to us about it, and we started trying to figure out all of the pieces of what that would be. So Jess and I went to work on making sure we had the right-of-ways and we had all of the stuff on our end. So we've been doing that since 2019 or so. And then Representative Biasucci in about 2021 really started to ramp up the funding conversations about how we would fund something like this. So he was able to successfully get $200,000 for a planning study to go forward, so we could do a land plan for the island. So we understood, in the future what the potential island development would ever be. So we know how much traffic to plan for. Also, would plan for the bridge and the layouts and the pictures, the road connections off of the highway, those types of things, and we would work that through. The thought at that time is we would do the study, give it to Representative Biasucci, and then he would go to work and try to find funding for the bridge. And so that's what we did in the 21 year, that's what we did in the 22 year. And then in the 23 year, we went through and Representative Biasucci found a window of opportunity to get the funding. So although the study hadn't been done yet, the funding, an opportunity arose, and he seized on it and took it and was able to get $35.5 million appropriated to the city for a second bridge. But because the $200,000 that I mentioned before was in law, we had to go through there and check that box. So we're working in parallel paths to do the study and the planning without slowing down the project at all and get the bridge going forward. So if it feels like it's fast or it feels awkward or any of those things, it's because it is. It's not normally how that would work, but we saw the opportunity. Well, Representative Biasucci saw the opportunity, and then we helped just facilitate it. So that's kind of where we're at now, but that's just the general of the why we're here. But Jess will talk a little bit about the details.
And then so since then, so you mentioned the last year's legislative session when Representative Biasucci identified the funding allocation for the second bridge, and the number of $35.5 million was identified. That was last legislative session. We then worked with the ADOT and the state. Essentially we see the bill pass, we see these conversations take place. We're like, okay, so where's the money at? Is this going to be an ADOT-led project? Is this going to be a city-led project? So, and then after the conversations with the state, not until October, we received the answer, which is yes, it's a city-led project, and they wrote the city a check that's now in our coffers for the $35.5 million. So we just got that in October. So we had one of our favorite residents attend a call to the public at the last city council meeting, and he says, "Why isn't the bridge built already?" Okay, we just got the money in October, and we're going through all the planning efforts that need to take place. We know where the right-of-way is on the island side, and we know where the right-of-way is going to be on the mainland side. But we don't know where is this going to be a 3-lane bridge, 4-lane bridge? Is it going to be pedestrian friendly? Is it going to connect on the mainland side? Is that going to make a connection to Highway 95? Or is that going to make a connection to London Bridge Road? So we need traffic accounts. We look at traffic counts, traffic analysis. We're looking at the future demographics of the island, because we don't want to build something that meets our needs now. We need to build something that's going to meet our needs for decades to come, right? So all of those conversations are taking place right now, and then the meeting this week on Monday was to share some of that big picture perspective with the public, get some input to some ideas, on what that might look like. And then we'll be meeting with some of the more the immediate stakeholders for that area later this month, I think is the plan. So those that have businesses in the proximity of the study area, those that live and have residents in the proximity of that study area, we want to meet with them. We're doing our best. We're moving forward with the project the best that we can, but we need to find a way to maximize the benefit and minimize the negative impacts of the project. So all those conversations are taking place right now. In the upcoming months, we'll be looking at reaching out and soliciting the what's going to be needed for the next step, which is acquiring design services. We need architects and engineers to make sure that the bridge is designed and planned in a way that's going to forever last. And then obviously the contractors that would be we would need through a contractual relationship, we need them on board to actually construct the bridge. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of steps are taking place. Right now, what we're doing is trying to identify the ins, the outs, and what's the best approach moving forward. Right now, I think as residents, we can find the London Bridge pretty easily. We can get access to the island pretty easily. But if you're years back, or if you have friends or others that are in town, they might circle 95 a couple of times to go, where is this bridge at that everybody keeps talking about? So because of that, there was a lot of conversations that the second bridge needs to connect with Highway 95. One of those complications is ADOT does not like stoplights within a quarter mile of each other. So I mean, and as motorists, as those that we don't want to stop every quarter mile at a stoplight. So what does that look like? So just an example of some of the nuance that's associated with it. If we made a direct connection right now through that Willow Wash or Paseo del Sol alignment, that would be less than a quarter mile from Mesquite. So, but there's other options that are out there. We got some really smart people that are looking at this from a variety of different ways. And again, we're trying to do the best we can to build a great bridge, a great product, and maximize the benefits, minimize the negative impacts associated with the project. But working hard, and we'll have news to share, I'm sure, for several coffees to come.
Yeah, so there's been some discussion over this. Obviously, this is the first time we've updated this group about the second bridge. So there was some discussions early on that we had a tight time frame to be able to do this. The number was 5 years at the time, which was a discussion that was occurring during committee hearings and as Representative Biasucci was ushering the bill through. When the final language got to the governor's office and she signed it, it did not include that. So we're still moving quickly, but there's not that 5-year pressure, although it'll take about 5 years. Everything that just mentioned, the planning, the engineering, building permits, and then building this bridge and road network is going to take that kind of time. So they expect this study to be done by summertime, June, July of this year, which will allow us to be able to go to those next steps. But we also have a lot of stakeholders that are involved. So as I mentioned originally as we started this topic, is that we've been talking about a second bridge since the 1970s. And so there's a lot of people that are like, the bridge is never going to happen. Well, it's here. And so now we really have to engage with citizens to talk about, the alignment, what it looks like. Is that acceptable? Should we do something different? All of those components of what that is and what it could be, so that everyone has a fair opportunity to weigh in as we move forward with that. So again, this is all appropriated with general fund dollars from the state of Arizona. Again, thank you to our legislative delegation. And so if you are on social media and you see people saying, well, we don't need a second bridge, or how are we going to pay for it? We're paying for it with money we already have in the bank account that's waiting and earmarked for this particular project. That was through that effort. So we're pretty excited that we are able to actually get this moving forward. And we also would like to thank our partners at Arizona State Parks,
yes,
who has the right-of-way on the mainland side. And then many, many years ago, we paid for the right-of-way with Arizona State Land Department, but they've also been a strong partner. Now that it's coming to fruition, the land commissioner and her team have really helped us in the conversation and planning, because we would need to make sure that they're involved as we're going to be traversing across their lands to be able to make all of these things happen. So a big thank you to those partners as well.
If I can, one last thing too. We talk about money for the second bridge. I mentioned a little about the road network. about half the cost associated with the project is the bridge, and the other half is the road network. Just so we get an idea of the magnitude of what we're talking about. So we mentioned bridge a lot, but it's the bridge and road network that the funding would go for. And then the road network can get spendy, but we're confident we can find a solution within the parameters that we have.
Yeah. And the road network, I mean, just to give you, Jess had said, as those of us that have lived here, it's pretty easy to find the London Bridge. But if we really think about it, you're coming across off of Highway 95, you turn right or left off of the highway onto Mesquite or onto Swanson. You then turn right or left onto Lake Havasu Avenue. You then turn right or left onto McCulloch. You then go across a highway bridge wondering, is this the bridge? And then you come up to what is the London Bridge with the same asphalt treatment as the roadway right in front of it. And then you're on the bridge. Yeah. And so again, we know it's easy because we live here, but that's not that easy of a way to get onto the London Bridge. So if it had a road network that you actually just got onto the bridge is what we're looking for. And certainly that neighborhood that we're coming off of, you go past on London Bridge Road or Mesquite, do that S curve over there by In-N-Out and all of that. That's very difficult with someone that has a boat trailer or an RV or any of those types of things to try and make those tight turns. So it's really imperative that the road network is a component of this. A bridge would do us no good if you can't use the bridge. So that's an important component. Mm-hmm. Moving on to Site 6. So Site 6 is currently closed, but we're doing some great work out there. It's well-needed work that needs to occur out there. If any of you have used Site 6, it's our only free boat launch facility in our community. And it's not very user-friendly in what it was in its current state. You'd back your trailer in, you'd lose your back tires. It's really steep. You'd have a hard time getting up. If you had to step out of your car, you might slip and fall because it's so steep and slippery. So all of those things are being corrected right now. In the meantime, while that launch facility is closed, the Havasu Riviera Marina reached out and said that they would offer free launching opportunities for any citizen that wanted to launch out the Havasu Riviera Marina through, I believe, like March 15th while this project's going on. But just if you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing there and the process and...
Yeah, the project itself is the reconstruction of the ramp and then trying to do the best we can to maybe minimize that slope to the level that we can. And some immediate improvements just for traffic flow for the boats to get in and out and trailers to get in and out and so forth. We've run into a couple of bumps, but we'll work right through them because we have a great team. Is that initially we were planning to do what's called a cofferdam because we have to do improvements within the water. And if you want to do improvements within the water, you need permits that need to take place. So we were going to build a kind of a cofferdam or just a way to basically remove the water through a temporary structure, pump out the water, and we can do the improvements where the water would be, where the ramp meets the water. We heard feedback from the permitting agencies that says, nope, we don't like the idea of a cofferdam. So we're like, okay, we'll transition, we'll figure it out, we'll find a different approach. And so we're working through some of those things right now. That's caused us about a month to try to kind of figure out what next steps are, but we have identified those. We're gonna, when it comes to the improvements that will take place in the water, we're gonna actually pour a ramp on the land and then shove it in the water, and we got a permit to accomplish that. That has to be completed by February 15th. So we have 2 weeks to get that done. So we're rushing to get that portion of it completed prior to the permit expiring, and then we can start all the work that needs to take place on the land side because there are no permits associated with the waterway, obviously, that we would need for that type of construction. So I think we're looking at maybe. We're looking into probably May before that project is completed. But I just want to recognize our team within the city, Public Works, Development Services, and otherwise that have come to the table and identified a path forward. So we got thrown a curveball, and I think we're going to hit it out of the park. So.
Yeah, and Jess describes that the ramp that will pour it and then push it in, that was very similar to the way that the Riviera Marina was done. So they did the same thing. They poured the ramps and then they pushed the ramps into the water. It seems that might be best practice from the Army Corps, if that's what they're wanting to have happen now. So, so that's what we'll be doing. Well, at Site 6, we also have a lot of users that like to fish out there. And so the fishing pier, it needs some work on it. We're working on grants for that, and hopefully one will come through for us to be able to do that. So there'll be more information on that if we're successful on achieving that grant, but we can get that fishing pier redone. Also out on the island, we have the island walking path. If any of you use that area, it's fantastic. There's a little over a quarter of it done right now that you actually can use and bike and run and walk on. There's the rest of it's in planning. I actually walked it this weekend and I just don't go walk anymore because I had a whole list for him of things. But
every time the mayor goes out and walks throughout the community, he comes back with okay, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, and all rightfully so. But the joke is stay at home more.
Yeah, stay home. What are you doing? Yeah. Fill his schedule up. But I was able to get out there this last weekend and walk it. It's so fantastic. It's a little bit wider than it was before, which is even better because with the increased bike traffic that's out there. It's more space is better, and of course I was a pedestrian. I wasn't a bicyclist, so it's a little bit different. And all of you that love your e-bikes, would you just slow down? Those areas that are not meant to be motorcycles on a sidewalk when you have pedestrians that are there. But that's off topic. But it's a pet peeve of mine. But so it's a little bit wider out there, but it's really fantastic. It looks great when it's all done. It's going to be a fantastic 3.6 mile loop. But included are also the parking lots. So the main parking lot at Beachcomber and McCulloch has been redone. As of last weekend, it wasn't striped yet, but I'm sure it is this week or coming soon. And then also the parking lot over by the football field where Pop Warner plays. That lot was redone, which is fantastic. So really exciting improvements out on the island. So many people use that walking path that it's really going to be a great improvement. I hear nothing but great feedback. Mm-hmm. So.
And I think we're looking at May timeframe for that one as well, too. End of May timeframe for the final completion with everything that's going to happen there. So after it's poured, there's a few things we want to do to make sure it's maintained and longevity is extended. We're looking at some type of pavement preservation for some of the streets that were recently redone and reconstructed within the city, and then maybe we do a treatment on those streets at the same time we do the walking path. So again, some short-term headaches, but the goal here is to make sure that we have something that's going to be long-lasting and enjoyed by residents for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Council met this week in our planning session. So every year we meet and spend generally about a day or so, and we go over basically all things city related. So it's really the start for the council to have communications with the team about the budget. So it's kind of like the unofficial kickoff from the council's perspective about budget discussions. So we get an update on what the departments are doing, what they've accomplished, what their goals are, any potential needs that they have, or other things that may be occurring in the city. So we spent the day doing that. We, at the end of the planning session, the council gives feedback, asks questions. They can ask questions all day, but then we have an opportunity you can ask final questions. And really, what I gathered out of the feedback from the council is that the city's doing really amazing things, and we should be really proud of the work that we're doing. And it was probably the first time in my years being involved that the council was kind of unanimous about that, about what direction we're going in and how good things are happening. So I thought that was really a good thing. We had some discussions about our community survey. When we were here together in December, we talked about the community survey, and the survey was actually just launching to those folks that were able to receive it in the mail. And then several people also completed the survey online. And this year is the second time we've done it. So now we have the statistically projectable comparables, like the other people in the country that do the same survey. And then we have it to compare to ourselves as well. And it was interesting. I haven't got through the whole thing in its entirety yet. So I just have the overview, and I've thumbed through it, but I haven't really dissected all of the information yet.
It's like 150 pages.
Yes, and it's complex stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's you got to really think through what some of the stuff is. But some of my takeaways are from my perspective, we try to communicate and communicate and communicate. So we do everything we can, and we host meetings like this, and we of course have our public meetings, and we're all in the speakers network. When I say we all, city staff, myself, my colleagues on council, speaking different organizations and groups and all of those things, but it's just not enough. So citizens want more, and so it's just kind of a good reminder, because you think you're doing good, and then they're like, nope, you're not. We need to hear more from you. So we'll work on that and do that. But I really was surprised on again, and this is just the high overview, is the amount of the national kind of tone that took place into the survey. So our citizens are feeling the pinch in their wallets, obviously with inflation and cost of gas and groceries and all of those types of things. Some of the influence of kind of like people's viewpoints on national politics. And again, these aren't questions that were asked. It's just kind of in the way the responses came through from a high level perspective. It was surprising to me because I've always seen, and when I talk to citizens, that have us just kind of insulated. Like we're really our own little microcosm of greatness. We're able to do really good things that just don't work anywhere else, but they work here. And so that surprised me a little bit. And Jess, I know you've spent a little bit more time on it than I have, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot associated with that, because it's not about you just read it and then you're done. It's you read it, kind of reread it, think about it, try to connect a couple different responses and try to get a better understanding of our residents and what their expectations are for the city. And that's why we do the survey in the first place, right? We're trying to learn as much as we can from our residents. So then when we make decisions come budget time, which we're in full swing right now, what's the city's priorities outside of the core services that we already provide today? But yeah, that was the big takeaway was some of those questions associated with just affordability within the community. So housing is too high, rents are too high, goods and services, the grocery store, healthcare, those things are too high, and all things associated with cost. One of the striking questions that I saw, or responses I should say, along that same lines the question was, do you feel, from a personal perspective, an individual perspective, will you be in a better or equal, I think it's better or equal, financial situation 6 months from now as you are today? 11% of our residents said yes. So 11% said they're going to be, they feel good about the next 6 months when it comes to their personal pocketbooks. So that's an important aspect that needs to more consideration. The city, we're not printing money, and we don't control rents, and we don't control the prices at the grocery store, but we need to have a better understanding of how our residents are thinking and they're feeling, and what impacts can we make that can maybe address some of those things to some degree. So that part of it was very striking, and then trying to relate it to the things that are associated there too. I'll tell you, it was a little bit of I think we talked a little bit about it, a little bit of a kind of a gut punch, because we do things like this when it comes to the coffees, and we try to be as transparent and honest and open with all the things that are happening within the city, and we got a lower grade, or lower mark, I should say, than this survey, than we did the last survey in terms of all of those, right? Where we need to be more communicative, more transparent, more honest, and more forthright. So. But we take that. So our residents are telling us we need more out of you. So, okay, we're going to do that. And so we take those responses and we say, okay, so what are we going to do about that? Other things within the survey that the high marks came back from, where should the city identify priorities? Roads. Mm-hmm. It was all about roads. I think these aren't exact numbers, but 95. It was certainly in the 90s in terms of high priority or medium priority or second priority in terms of roads and what we needed to get accomplished there. Water conservation was high on that priority list. Highway 95 was high on that priority list. So we see these things, and as council says, all right, get it done. And as staff, we're like, yep, we're on it. And we're trying to react the best that we can after we kind of digest what's out there. There's much more. That's just the first wave of what, and a few other things of my first takeaway with the results, but very informative. And how else do we get information from our residents about what we need to do? So it was awesome.
Yeah, we were also able to see during the planning session the one team that Jess talks about. So, as the council manager form of government, which is what most cities in Arizona have, Lake Havasu City does as well. So the mayor and city council hire the city manager, the city attorney, and the city magistrate, and then the city manager is responsible for managing the team. So he hires all of the team members and trains them, and follows all the policies and procedures and policies set by council. But it's Jess and his team that work through those things. But you really were able to see that interaction, sort of what I talked about in the Water Smart grant opportunity we had. You were able to see that throughout the day as all of the different departments came through and talked about, again, their priorities and what they need moving forward, and their successes. And there were a lot of them. I would expect that you'll be able to see a lot of news articles that will be happening over the next couple of weeks that are all pertaining to that particular meeting. Some of you spent the day with us, and we thank you for that. It is open to the public, and we did have several members of the public join us, as well as we also invited our boards, committees, and commissions this year as well to attend. Again, they're public, so they always have been invited, but we actually did a special invite to them, one that they're doing so much work for us in their respective boards, committee, or commission, but it's good for them to see the whole city. So when you look at the competing priorities that we have, they're all super important. But there's a lot of them. Well, we do a lot of things to make sure that our citizens are served in the areas that they need to be. So it's good to get a full, well-rounded perspective of the city, and that day provides that. Any other thoughts on the planning session?
Just a lot of information. We're doing the best that we can to identify the successes and needs for improvement in the last 12 months and what our goals are for the next 12 months and so forth. We talked about the survey. Mr. Kozlowski led that effort, and I believe that's on the city's website. So anybody that wants to go and take a look at the city's website can pull down those survey results and try to dig through like we are, and looking for feedback and opportunities there as well too. So thank you, Mr. Kozlowski, for the presentation, and then for the public, go check it out. There's a lot to digest for sure.
All right, we just have a couple more topics, and then we're going to turn it over to you to answer any of your questions. Chief Troy Sterling, our police chief, who actually joined me with Fire Chief Palafis in our December coffee, is right now down
in Mesa.
Right now, actually.
Right now.
Physically at this time. In Mesa, the police department's gone through an accreditation process. At the time where we did this 4 years ago, then Captain Sterling, he was the captain at the time, led the accreditation process for us to be accredited for the first time ever. And we were the third agency?
Yeah, in this entire state of Arizona.
Yeah, the third agency to be accredited as a police department. So this is a department going through, putting a laser focus on the services that they do and provide, and having a microscope put on it. So going through all of your policies, your procedures, how you do things, any of the areas that you should change, all of those things, and they go through and give recommendations and either accredit you or don't. It's a 4-year accreditation, and so this year it's been 4 years, so it's reaccreditation time. And over the last probably 60 days, was it? I know the chief mentioned it during. Oh,
they've been working on the accreditation process probably for 6 months, but then they bring in the experts, they interview, that observe. They basically audit our police services up and down throughout the entire department, and then there's through that assessment, a report is identified, and then you're making presentations in front of individuals that represent the universities, public safety agencies, and otherwise throughout the entire state. They did that last week, passed with flying colors, and now they're out there receiving the recognition that they deserve. For Chief Sterling, for his leadership team, for everybody within the police department, it's a real boost to know that what they're accomplishing is recognized by the state as a positive force and a positive service that they provide. So kudos to Chief Sterling, kudos to everybody within the police department for all the good things that they're doing and continue to do.
Yeah, Lake Havasu City can be really proud that we have a great police department. We're a safe community. Our officers have relationships with the citizens. It's really a great police department, but also a great community because of the public safety impact that we have within our community. So during that accreditation process, citizens were interviewed and could come in and talk to the panel when they were here on site to give their feedback. But it's a big process to go through, and we collectively as a community support our police department, and this is them supporting us as well, making sure that they set the standard to be even better than they already are. So real proud of the police department and excited that the chief is down there accepting that reaccreditation right now as we speak. And then finally, before we open it up to your questions, it is election season. You would know that if you turn on the television and you see all of the stuff that's happening, but sometimes we get overshadowed at the local level, and people forget we have an election going on as well. So just like to mention it, we will have 3 council seats that will be up for re-election this year. We're every 2 years we have seats that come available. So we do have 3 seats available. We have 10 applicants that have requested a packet from the city clerk's office. Those packets then contain signatures where candidates will go around and talk with their neighbors and other citizens to collect signatures to qualify for the ballot. And once that occurs, it's like the first week of April, I believe signatures are done. Once that date has been met and signatures are turned in, that's when you're officially a candidate for office or will be on the ballot. And then that's when you'll start hearing from your candidates to make a selection come the primary on August 6th. Generally at the local level, many of our elections are decided at the primary. So we really encourage you to get out and vote in the primary election. Local elections are so important. So we really are your first line of defense. Everything you do on a daily basis, we're there. The roads you drive on, we're making sure they're maintained. When you flush your toilet, we're catching it at the end. When you turn on the faucet,
not literally.
Yeah. When you turn on the faucet, we're making sure it's there. When you call 911, we're the ones that are heading out that way.
Absolutely.
So really, we're impacting your everyday life. So please, local elections are so important. Pay attention to those elections and be part of the process as we go forward. But again, if you are interested in a position, the city clerk's office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You can make an appointment to get a packet or consider that and be part of that solution. With that, I would like to introduce some of my colleagues that are joining us. We have Vice Mayor Cameron Moses is with us this morning.
Yep.
We have Councilmember David Lane. We have Councilmember Nancy Campbell. And we have Councilmember Lane will go around and take the microphone to you. So if you have a question, he'll make his way to you.
Yes, Mayor. The main question I have concerns the water conference that you all went to. What particular things, not just the generalities, but what particular things did you come away with that you think you would have a good chance of implementing?
Yeah, thank you for that. So there is a detailed plan that we came through that is very rough because, again, Mr. Knutson needs to be involved in that process. So, but it's some things on water conservation, infrastructure on the water and wastewater side. So some particular water infrastructure pieces. You may recall, and we've talked about this before, is we have applied for a grant with the Bureau of Reclamation to get an additional water treatment facility. And some of that would bring new technologies to the water treatment, which would allow us to conserve more water. So a lot of our discussion was predicated on that. If we're successful in that grant, then we'll be able to do a series of things that will allow us to conserve more water. So a lot of that conversation. And then the communication side. So as Mr. Knutson had mentioned, we had our planning department with us as well. So taking a planning perspective when we're doing developments and incorporating that with engineering who is there and our water folks for water delivery. So what type of needs is this particular use of land going to need from a water perspective? and how do we ensure that that we're using the correct technologies for that. So easy low-hanging fruit that we all know is like low flush toilets and shower heads that are low flow, still high pressure, so you can get the stuff out of your hair, but low flow. So those are just the low-hanging fruit. But kind of that was the general overall discussion. The conference actually culminates with an opportunity to apply for a grant. And so we'll be able to get, it's a small grant, but it's a grant that will allow us to further these planning efforts. But as we engage with more members of the city team, as we expand that team, more of those things will come forward. The other thing was the need for a water conservation code plan, which we already have a water conservation plan. It's due this year. It's every 5 years, but we don't have very strong codes. Which now that with the survey coming out, citizens are telling us we need to have a water conservation code. I mean, that was, I think it was 90. It was in the 90s or 80, 85. It was so high. Yeah. And so I mean, those are some of the takeaways that we can do immediately. It's just give certainty when it comes to water conservation and what all those components look like.
Mm-hmm. Good morning.
Good morning.
I can't find information anywhere, so I just came this morning to ask if there's any information or changes regarding the camping around Sarah Park during the winter blast, if there's suggestions, new rules, or if we're able to just camp the way we have them previous years.
Yeah, thank you for that. One of the unique things about Lake Havasu City, one of the exciting things about Lake Havasu City is we have all of these open lands around us, but they're owned and controlled by somebody. And so we're surrounded by Arizona State Trust land, which was given to Arizonans at statehood. So it's in the Constitution.
And so we're talking about the land south of town, right by the Welcome to Lake Havasu City sign across from Sarah Park in that area right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just to put that out there.
Where we're at. So Arizona State Trust lands are lands that were given to the citizens of Arizona in trust. It's in the Constitution, and they have about 12 beneficiaries. The largest beneficiary is the K-12 education system. There are other beneficiaries as well. State Trust then manages all of those lands across the state of Arizona that are in the trust, and it includes this area, as just mentioned, across from Sarah Park. Traditionally, during Winter Blast or the WPA conference that occurs out there, the firework conference in February, a lot of people set up camp right across from Sarah Park. The land commissioner has closed that area to camping. There are signs that are now posted that area is closed. There are other opportunities for camping just adjacent to like the Welcome to Lake Havasu sign, like towards the Standard Wash area. You can still camp in that area. That's state trust land. Intersecting with BLM land. I mean, there's some BLM there as well, but that land remains open. And I also understand that there's opportunities to pay for camping at the rodeo grounds. If you're interested, you'll be right there underneath all of that. But what we're doing every day is we're trying to protect our neighborhoods and people's property. And we were having an explosion of people camping, literally in people's backyards on state trust land. But it still is literally in people's backyards. And working with the commissioner, we're grateful for her support in helping us manage those lands so that everyone can peacefully enjoy their area. But you can't camp in the traditional area. That area has been closed.
I'm sorry, you're kind of off microphone, but if you say something real quickly, I can repeat it. So the question is there a map out in that area? If you go on the city's website, there's on our GIS portion of it, you can see like state ownership, but who owns what land. If you go on the state lands website, they'll be able to. There's some maps on there as well too of what they own. And you mentioned about you can camp on these areas, but you need to go through the proper agency to ensure you have permission and have a permit to access their property. If I can too, we're talking about this in relation to the upcoming. Fireworks conference or the Winter Blast event that comes up, but this is not. It's not. The state land didn't close those areas to camping for that event. They closed the area, and now the event is occurring. But from what I understand, our communications from state land is that this is a permanent decision throughout the year, 12 months out of the year. They heard from the residents on the south end of town, just like we were hearing from them about all the things that disruption and things that are occurring in their backyards. They're hearing, like we heard, that there's a lot of abandoned RVs and tents and trash and things that show up in that area, not because of the winter blast event, but because just year round and what that looks like. We had an abandoned RV in that area. And so then people could then contact the mayor's office, council members' offices, my offices, the city otherwise, and say, the city needs to get rid of this abandoned RV. It's not in our boundaries. It's not on our property, but it looks horrible, and something's got to be done about it. And we got some estimates through the police department and code enforcement and otherwise. To take an abandoned RV and dispose of it, it's like $5,000, because you have to go through all the waste that's in there and pull it apart. The landfill just doesn't take an RV and you throw it in there. There's a lot of costs associated with that. So all those, I just wanted to kind of paint that story, and all of this is occurring right next to Lake Havasu. Here's an abandoned RV and tent and trash that's out there. So state land heard all of those concerns and comments from our residents, just like we were hearing, and they made this move. Wasn't because of the winter blast event. It was because of the year-round issues that are associated with that area.
Okay, got it. There are a lot of people that come in, and I don't think that they're aware that they're not going to have anywhere to camp.
Well, not the whole place is the camp, just not that location.
Where we see people camping now is a safe assumption that that's an open area.
I actually was coming back from Phoenix last night, but it was raining and dark, and so I wasn't able to see it. It looked like the area was cleared out. There is signage in that area. You also can go to the state lands department, and the closure notice will be posted there as well. So it'll show the area. But it would be safe to say that go over the bluff past the Lake Havasu City, Welcome to Lake Havasu City sign is roughly where it's at. But if there's a sign that says no camping right there, or closed, then don't go there. But roughly that's how I understand it to be.
And if you are going to camp, you need permission. You need a permit from the either BLM or from state land as well too. So yeah. Okay.
A question I have, Mayor and City Manager, is the data for the survey that was done. I know there was a select group of citizens that actually received the survey, but it was also available to everyone to fill out. Was that data also captured from the people that did not get it sent to them in the numbers that we saw?
Yeah, so the survey data, the statistically projectable component, are just the ones that were sent out to the citizens. The ones that then wanted to have their voice heard, those comments were incorporated and are part of our discussions at the city to make sure that we address it. But because we're benchmarking against our last survey, and then all communities across the nation, it has to be just the ones that it was distributed to originally. Although all comments are still being reviewed and a part of it. Yes, correct. It is online.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to go back to the bouncy bridge and the trash. I want to thank you and say that if we're getting the city out there to help us, that's great. My great neighbor and I are out there every Tuesday afternoon at 12:30 picking up trash.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Can we get back to the first time we talked, or I talked about this with you? Mark was his first day in office at the Republic, and
Yes.
we were going to start enforcing the non-covered loads and stuff like that, charging them, which obviously didn't last. I'm asking, can we put a community police officer out there or a surcharge for $5 so it can go to pay for, them, the city, to do the trash pickup out there. I mean, we're doing our best. I mean, you got plugged up culverts out there, which is going to cause road problems. I mean, what we've been picking up. Another thing, I was facilities manager at the college. We use the prisoners out there. Is there any reason if we charge a surcharge, can we put that towards, inmates coming down and picking up trash for us?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, trash is, the good news is, as we mentioned earlier, is that we've got all of the players to the table and we're really close to a solution. So that's the good news. Some of the points that you made are well taken. We used prisoner labor prior to the pandemic. Post-pandemic, it hasn't been restored. And that is, the prison labor in our area is through the county. But not that the county's the one saying no, it has to be administered by ADOT. Who runs the road system and the road network. And so that's not a possibility currently, although it did work for many, many years in our area. The covered loads, there's a balance. So the answer to your question is yes, there is a fine already. So that's in code, but there's a balance to people that will throw their bulky and household items across the deserts, with the cost associated with dropping it off at the landfill. So there's a correlation to that. That doesn't mean that if you come with an uncovered load, you're not getting fined, because it's my understanding that you...
That's in the contract of public services, that if you show up at the landfill without a covered load, that they're supposed to be issuing a fine for that. And it's supposed to progressively increase over a 12-month period as well too. And then they're supposed to take those funds and help us utilize those funds for cleanup, which is why we're talking to them. It's like, how are you spending those dollars? Let's get some trash picked up on Highway 95 as well too. So yeah.
Yes, we live in that north part of the residential area, and we're getting all the trash in our neighborhood, and that's why we're taking our time to clean it up. But we're asking, can we see those fines, or can we get an officer out there to, and start recording these? Everything we're picking up out there mostly is construction.
Yeah.
So, it's not people dumping trash, it's contractors that are not covering their loads.
Up until this point, where we're talking about a more concerted effort to working with public services and otherwise, we've been relying on ADOT. It's an ADOT road, it's there right away, they need to be picking up the trash. So every time we have an opportunity, sometimes the best way to get our point across is to repeat and annoy. So that I use that strategy quite a bit with ADOT over the last several years. It's like, all right, Mr. Employee at ADOT, when are we going to clean the roads? We need to get out there. We need to get out there. And they've been utilizing prison labor for that effort. But where they think maybe 2 or 3 times a year is enough to get out there, we're saying, no, we need 2 or 3 times a month would be ideal, but we'll take once a month. Yeah. How about once a month? We're not, and they have resources and they have rules and all the rest. But at a certain point, we just need to say, you know what? I know it's your road. I know you're responsible for it, but we need to take some steps from the city's perspective to bring you into our effort. Work with public services. We'll do whatever it takes to get that accomplished. At one point we threw out the idea of hiring some type of like a landscape firm or something along the like. How much would it cost for a small company to be out there on an ongoing basis to keep the 95 clean? Every day we need employees out there, or every week we need employees out there picking up trash. How much would that cost? So we've thought about that, and then we take whatever that cost is and say, okay, public services, you owe us this much, and ADOT, you owe us that much, but we'll contribute towards this effort as well too. So those are just some of the ideas that we're looking at. But yeah, we've tried to annoy and embarrass and whatever else too. They have resources and rules. But I think that if we're taking the lead on trying to bring everybody together and do more, because it's trash.
Yeah. So the good news again, it's solutions are coming. They're readily there, and thank you so much for your contributions.
Wow, yes.
That's amazing to get out there and do that. Thank you.
And for you, and then as well as what a great community we live in, right? Mm-hmm. For all the efforts of the Adopt a Mile program on ADOT with our Rotary clubs and Kiwanis Club and Key Club, and I started a list I shouldn't have, because there's so many out there that clean up 95. And we don't want to put all of that on the backs of our good-hearted residents. We need to step up and do what we can to bring everybody to the table. So.
Yeah, for everybody that is out there using the highway or using our road network, tie your stuff down.
Yes,
so
please.
So you just need to do that. I was heading to Phoenix yesterday midday, and there was an 8-foot ladder on a lane of travel over on Oro Grande on Highway 95. I mean, that shouldn't happen. So there's ways to make sure that doesn't happen. So please do your part and cover your stuff. So slow down. That's another good thing too. Yes, Dave.
Gentlemen, Gentlemen, there's a question that I need to a little more clarification. The bridge itself, the $35.5 million that we are being given to us, the city, does that include the roads that are going to be attached to it as well, or is the taxpayer going to be involved in this? That's my concern, the taxpayer. I mean, why is it not the people who live on the island? Aren't they paying their share to be on that island? And the bridge is really for them, basically, not for us.
Yeah, so good question. This is going back to our discussion about the second bridge, and does it include the cost for the road network and the bridge? The $35.5 million, it's all of the money we're getting from the state. And so as Jess had mentioned, we're still in the really early stages of it. If it's going to exceed $35.5 million, we'll have a public conversation. So we'll have discussions with the public to see what the appetite is for that. We believe that $35.5 million will allow us to get the job done. We don't know what capacity, but to get the job done. And so when it comes to that, we'll have that discussion. When it comes to the island residents paying their share of it, it's a good thought. And at one point we had development fees. State law changed on how development fees or impact fees could be used. And so we no longer do that. And we actually had to spend the money that we had collected in those original days. This is going long before all of us that are here, but it's not a feasible way. But I would say that everything that we do in Lake Havasu City, the majority of our revenues come from sales tax. So that's the majority of what it is. And whether that's the 2% city sales tax that we collect on goods and services, or the HERF dollars from the gas taxes you pay, or a portion of your income taxes that are redistributed back up to cities and towns from the state, is collectively as a whole, all of us together. So we don't have necessarily neighborhoods in Lake Havasu City where, south side you take care of your needs and north side you take care of your needs. We're collectively a community. So when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about it in a global perspective. And so, the protection of the bridge, it might sound like it's just for residents to get on and off to their home. It's also to protect our iconic world famous London Bridge that makes Lake Havasu City who we are. And so there's lots of ways to look at this, but point well taken that you don't want to pay any additional money for it. We don't either. And if that was going to be the case, it would be in front of the public saying, hey, these are options. Where do we want to be? And we'll take the voice of the whole on whatever that might look like.
I think and then is it enough? And that's $35.5 million. That's the bridge and the road network. So that's all in terms of what that project looks like. Right now, my marching orders from council is get it done within the parameters that we have, Jess. Right. So so that's my team and we're working hard to do just that. Now we'll see as we collect information. We'll see how far along we can get to get to that point. And if there are conversations that occur within the public to say, you know what, maybe we need to add this to it or add that to it. That's a public conversation. But right now, the marching orders that I have, I got a list of projects to complete that's on there, and we're checking the boxes. And the funds that we have for that effort are $35.5 million.
Good morning. Earlier this morning, you discussed road maintenance. And from the casual observer, what I see, it's the same roads being fixed over and over again. Again, from a casual observer, it seems like you're playing whack-a-mole. Mm-hmm. Are there any considerations to expanding our circulation? We have a general plan that I believe is up for discussion in 2 years or for vote. Yep. I hope that circulation plan would address beyond the same old roads over and over again to improve the circulation into the city. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. As you mentioned, our general plan is we're required to do it every 10 years. So we'll be coming back up for ratification in 2026. So we have to it's about an 18-month or so process of stakeholder engagement, citizen feedback to take a look at planning of all perspectives from a general perspective within our community. It's then voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission, then voted on by the City Council, and then referred to the ballot for the citizens to ratify that vote to make sure that this is exactly what they want in the general plan. There's been lots of discussions over the years on different road networks and the like. At one time, we had a bypass plant, which was from basically the airport area up into the Cherry Tree area. That would be an ADOT project, and it would need to be because there's lots of lands, state lands and BLM lands that you'd have to traverse over. But they took that off their 20-year plan several years ago. And so and all of those things are going to have really far-reaching impacts to the neighborhoods in which they impact. And so it sounds like a really good idea until a highway is now your front yard. And so it's going to be a difficult situation, but some of the things and areas that we're working on to increase circulation and flow is through our partners at the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They're currently doing a traffic light signal synchronization program, which I know I've talked about this in the past, and it seems like it never happens. I was coming in from Bullhead on Tuesday. I literally got every red light, every single one, starting at London Bridge Road all the way to Mesquite, every one. And I'm like, how is this happening to me? But it would be synchronizing our lights where off of the highway where you are flowing the traffic at a better pace than we do now. Currently, that was the most inefficient ride I had back into town, and it shouldn't be that way. And so then
So if you just stay home, then we have to worry about all these things.
He's like, more things on the list.
Add to the list.
What the synchronization will do is it'll synchronize not only lights on the highway, so that doesn't happen to you on the highway, but then when you're turning off of the highway onto Mesquite, Industrial, Palo Verde, North, South, all of those things where the light on Lake Havasu Avenue is also green, so you can continue to go on, so you're not at all this stop and go. So it actually will circulate in a better fashion. We also have a traffic signal light that's going to be going in at Jamaica and McCulloch, which will help some of the flows up in that neighborhood. Right now, you have steady flows going from a four-way stop experience. And if you're trying to go to school or drop kids off for school in the morning or go to work in the morning at that intersection, it is insane. You have Jamaica Elementary, Starline Elementary, the high school are just the schools that are impact that intersection. Then you all have all the work traffic. But what that does is then if you live over off of Cherry Tree, which we have lots of neighborhoods there, or you live off of Mohican or any of the roads along that area, you can't pull out of your driveway because when you have a four-way stop, you're stopped and then the car goes, the other lanes go, then you go. The patterning gets to the point where now you're at one of those intersections, you can't get out because they're just too close for you to make that right turn or left turn out of your street. So all of that stuff will happen. So the MPO is the planning organization for traffic. It takes a lot of years to make anything happen. There's things that we're just now implementing that when I got involved back in 2014-ish are just implementing now. So it takes a long time, but it is a real high-level planning perspective on traffic and circulation.
And if I can too, because it's a great question that might be helpful for others here too, because you talk about why you're doing the same street over and over again. An example of that is what we talked about earlier with a fog seal happening on 95. So you'll see this occur over the next 2 months. Is they're going to finish the asphalt on 95, and you're going to go, it's completed, and then they're going to come back with and put another coat on top of 95, and the takeaway for some might be like, well, they just fixed this road. What are they doing this again for? Similar to the road along McCulloch and Swanson areas in the downtown. The city just did those improvements. Now you're going to see us in the next couple of months go back again and apply a treatment on top of those roads. But what we're doing is similar to what if you would stain some wooden furniture or a wooden fence or whatever else too. You put it in, then you gotta stain it, you gotta coat it, you gotta seal it, you gotta make sure that it's long lasting. That's why I say those things, right? So you'll see us maybe touch a street once or twice, but it's the first application is the pavement or whatever recipe or asphalt recipe we put down, and then we come back and do something on top of that. To preserve it, so that might be what kind of you're seeing in some areas, and for those that will witness it here, you'll see that happen on 95 up and down. It's like they just touched these streets. Why didn't they just do that the first time they did this? It's intentional, right? Put down the asphalt, let it cure, come back and put a coating on it, and put that defensive coating on it.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sure that $35.5 million you're investing in. My question is, I want to know where all the interest is going. Does it go back in that pot, or are you putting it somewhere else? Because as the costs go up, that $35.5 million is going to get smaller. So if you've got it invested at, I don't know, there are rates out there at 5% right now, that's going to give you a pretty good kickback that we can put back towards the roads and the bridge.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, great question, Edna. I thought you were getting me for something else, and so that's good. So the good news is that we're actually starting to see some of our infrastructure projects level out. So you mentioned costs go up, and I mean it still fluctuates, but it's not as crazy as it was just a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Interest, though, that I mean, Jill and her team.
So we just bought $35 million worth of Tesla stock, and we're hoping for the best. The rules that apply for city when we invest funds is zero risk. So, and we want to make sure that we're doing just that. So we'll get a couple of percentage points back on our investment, but we can't have any risk associated with any type of investment there whatsoever. Any interest rate any interest that we collect off of that $35.5 million just adds to that total. So that's gonna be the dollars that'll be used for that project. Yeah.
Hello, just back to the roads again. Do you have a ETA on the completion of industrial that goes into Windsor?
Yes, that is on. That is one of them that is in the planning stage right now.
There's a couple different projects that are occurring up in that area, and it depends on which part of industrial. Are you in the lakeside of industrial? Lakeside of industrial?
Lakeside,
yeah. We're just a couple weeks out. Yeah.
A couple weeks out for council or for?
Well, so there's work over there happening right now. Are you speaking to the work that's ongoing right now?
Right. Do you have an estimated completion date?
Yeah. So we're just a couple weeks out from finishing what's happening right now. There's industrial on the main or on the this side of Lake Havasu Avenue will be another project coming forward. So that's why the confusion there. But if I can touch base with you, I can get your card. And then I can send you more specifics about that afterwards. So, or Anthony, could you reach out? Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Back to Sarah Park. Just a quick couple questions. The area where our Welcome to Lake Havasu City sign is, does that sit on city property or on Arizona State Trust Land property?
Yeah, that's trust land, I believe, but
it's right on the cusp. I'm not even. I could look it up while we're talking. Yeah.
In generalities, it's on the cusp. It should be right at our border.
Well, and in generalities, it's also probably in Arizona or ADOT's right of
way, yeah.
Which doesn't then at that point the land ownership doesn't matter as much. But
our lives aren't easy when it comes to things like that too, because you have land ownership, you have right of way, and we have to play by the same rules everybody else does. So there's a whole lot of permissions that take place just to put up a sign that you think we should put up.
Well, I noticed that the AZ Land Trust put signs up from that sign north towards our city.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would be assuming as a unknowledgeable citizen that would be city property, wondering why it was done. So that is considered AZ trust land?
Yeah, that's AZ trust land. So if just to wrap that around, the trust land is also what we refer to as Body Beach. Trust land is all of the shoreline on the island.
Not the shoreline, but the access road going into Body Beach.
No, the shoreline is Arizona State Land Department.
Last time I talked to them, they said it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, it's the 450 mark. Again, it gets complicated, but yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I was just going to bring that up.
Yes.
Also, what are the plans for enforcing it out there? Who is going to handle the enforcement? Are we going to see AZ State Trust Land officers coming out from Phoenix on a daily basis to enforce this? Or is the city going to enforce it? The county sheriff's going to enforce it?
Yeah, good question. So all three, and that's again where it gets complicated on the different areas of the land holding. So when I was driving by last week, there was the sheriff was out there enforcing it. Arizona State Lands Department will enforce the order, and then our police department will augment that in our areas as well.
Okay. We've been asking for this for 4 years, so I'm glad it's finally getting done, because it looks horrible when you drive into the city to see squatters, tents, and all this stuff.
Yes.
So I do praise you on that. But 4 years of working for it, it seems to me it would be so much easier if we had sent our officers out there, or county officers, and just stopped it before it started and got to be put on the boondocking sites all over the world that this is available.
Sure.
And we could have stopped it in the bud when citizens first asked for it. Now, my other question is, what do they consider camping? You can still go out there with your motorhome, park your motorhome, and to what hour? I'm assuming it's 11 o'clock. because that's what Lake Havasu PD told me about Body Beach when I reported illegal camping down there, that they had till 11 p.m. to move their vehicle. But I see this as a problem coming up that we're going to have to look into, is if you have a mess of people partying, having family barbecues, fires while they watch the fireworks. Hey, we're all human. Not me. I don't drink alcohol. But most of our citizens do. You're going to have a very large amount of citizens who are probably over the limit to drive. And at 11 o'clock, they're going to have to get into their vehicles at the end of the fireworks show, because that's quiet time out there, I believe it's 11 or 10. They're going to get into their vehicles and they're going to pour onto that highway, some of them a little buzzed. What is this effect going to have on the citizens out here that we don't drink? We have families, we take family members out there. You're going to have probably 50% of the people jumping on that highway shouldn't be driving.
Yeah, no, good points. Those are lots of assumptions you just made there. So, and that's fair. But to address some of those situations, don't drink and drive. If you drink and drive, you're going to get arrested and you're going to get a DUI. If somebody is camping out there, the land commissioner controls those lands. So it'll be up to her to levy those areas. The reason we didn't necessarily enforce it, we enforce certain areas of that, but it's very complicated, the land holdings, when you start to intersect between BLM, city, private, and state trust lands in that area. We've been working with the land department for many years. There's a new commissioner. She's been in the department about 9 months, and things take time. And as a citizen or people come and do things, and we have to react. This is where we're at now. But we are up against our time. As always, I like to wrap up with some fun facts that we have. We're going to have our fun facts today from the city clerk's office and also from the airport. So. Airport first. In the 12-month period ending May 16th of 2022, the report had 52,900 aircraft operations. So that's an average of 145 per day. 92% of those are general aviation, 4% are air taxi, and 4% was military. I would have actually thought the military was higher just from what I hear up in the skies. And there's 157 aircraft based at our airport. And the airport opened in its current location in June of 1991. It moved from the island, which was where Mr. McCulloch used to fly everyone in. And then from our city clerk's office, the city clerk's office is basically the repository for all of our documents. They keep all of our historical stuff and make minutes and historical things for what we do. So they processed 19 applications and 14 appointments for our boards, committees, and commissions. Those are citizens that went through the process to want to serve on one of them and went through that whole process.
Over the last 12 months.
12 months, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. They processed 5,327 requests for public records. Those are people asking for a record from us.
Let that sink in. How many public records over the last 12 months have been requested?
Yeah, 5,200 or 5,300 different documents. Yeah, 5,300. Crazy. They prepared 16,673 images for microfilm. They published and codified 18 ordinances. So those are the ordinances that were passed by council. They prepared 30 sets of city council meeting minutes for 475 pages of council meetings. They're also recorded, so you can watch them there too, but they keep written ones as well. We had 32 council meetings that they processed the meetings in the minutes for, and they processed 372 council communications. So those are the communications that before a meeting you see, council gets them, but of course all of our citizens have access to them as well. That gives the background and information on anything that we might be discussing or considering. So a lot of work that the clerk's office does. Amazing stuff. As always, thank you for being here. We'll see you on the 1st of March. It's actually March 1st will be the first Friday next month. We'll be here in the same spot. Yes, same spot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Have a good day.
Mm-hmm.